Hi everyone. Okay, I don't know, I think I had a little hiccup with the internet here, so I popped on for a few minutes, but I went off. I wanted to check something out. Anyway, I'm back. So I was just talking about the wine that I have tonight. So this is a wine that comes from an importer that I'm friendly with here where I live in town. So it's David Milligan Selections. There we go. Okay, so I feel like people are coming. I don't know what happened before. So this is from David Milligan Selections. And currently, David's son, Alex, is running the company, and his wife, Julie, and they're local to Ridgefield. So Alex and Julie Milligan bring this wine in. So this is a Bordeaux. And here is the bottle. So it's Chateau L'Orangerie. So this is a Bordeaux Superior. There we go. Now I have some people. I don't know what happened before. Okay, so has anybody had a Bordeaux before or heard of Bordeaux and like kind of knew it was a wine thing but didn't really know what it meant? So I think a lot of people may fall into the camp of like, you know Bordeaux, you've heard of it, what is it? It's wine. It's also a city. So it's a city in kind of the southwesternish portion of France. So it's a city, and then beyond that is a region, a wine region as well. So this is the name of the actual producer is Chateau L'Orangerie. L'Orangerie is actually like a cool greenhouse where rich people used to be able to grow oranges in their house if they were really rich. So it was like this beautiful sort of windowed conservatory where they would grow oranges. So that's how it got the name Orangerie. But anyway, Chateau L'Orangerie. So a lot of the producers in Bordeaux are called chateaus because they're like these massive homes, and the property around that is used for agriculture, and in many cases they grow grapes there. So that's how Chateau and Bordeaux wines are sort of intertwined. So anyway, a lot of Bordeaux is red. Not all, but a lot of Bordeaux is red. And what's cool about it is that it's actually pretty much always a blend. Doesn't always have to be, but it's usually a blend. In this case, we have a blend of Merlot and Cabernet. So this is a blend of 85% Merlot, 15% Cabernet. And it's specifically, I'm going to grab that bottle again, Bordeaux Superior, which means that Bordeaux Superior means just like a little bit higher quality than just sort of their regular Bordeaux. Usually has to do with the alcohol content, meaning that the grapes achieved a bit more ripeness, and therefore you have a little bit more alcohol, a little bit more fullness, richness, and just a little bit more of a complex, better wine. I love this. So this is still considered like an entry-level wine, I guess you could say. Doesn't mean it's cheap or anything like that. It's a great wine, but it's a little bit more entry-level. So it's not going to be like that $50 or more bottle. Definitely more everyday drinking wine. So mostly Merlot and some Cabernet. It's super silky on the palate. Very fresh. A mix of red and black fruits. Like, let's see what we got. Hold on. It's kind of darker fruit to me. Like the black cherry type of fruits. Like a little licoricey as well. So if you're following along, please, and you do have a glass of wine, it would be so great if you could just write what you have in your glass, because then maybe I'll say something about it. Not everybody might be drinking tonight. Maybe you're just hanging out having a cup of tea or some seltzer. That's awesome. But if you do have wine, it would be nice to kind of know what it is, and maybe I could comment on what you have. Hi. Okay, we got some peeps coming in now. This is great. So yeah, whatever you have in your glass, let me know. Any questions about wine in general that you've ever wanted to know. So I'll just start. So one of the questions I get very frequently. Okay, hold on. Oh, I don't think you meant to do that. Did you mean, Jen, did you mean to be in my video? Because you could be in my video. That would be awesome. I just don't think that's what you meant to do. But you're in. You're watching, so you're in. So one of the questions I get very frequently is like, what's a good wine, right? You're going to the store and you want to know, like, what's a good wine? And that's a really, really hard question for me to answer because, well, I'm not at the store that you're at, so I don't know what you're looking at. Every store is really different. And generally, the wines that you can find in every single store, no matter what, like all the brand names that you've probably seen a million times, those are like the worst. And I'm sorry to say, you may have your favorite. I mean, listen, a lot of my friends, right, like they have their favorites, they know what they like, and they get it everywhere, right? So if you're great, like I'm so glad. But for me personally, those are not the best wines. And it's hard because when you become loyal to a brand because you like how something tastes, you don't want to really, go away from that. You don't want to maybe try something else because it's risky. Because how many times have you gone to the store and you bought a bottle and then you don't even like it and you're like, damn, I just spent $20 and I don't even like it. So I totally get it. So you find something you love and you stick to it, and that's great. However, in the world of wine, those tend to be the lowest quality wines because of the fact that they are consistent, right? So you normally think consistency is a great thing with wine, and it is. Like, it is to an extent. You go to a restaurant, the food is consistently delicious. Awesome. You want to go back because you know what you're getting. However, with wine, that doesn't translate in the same way. So if you know you're going to get this bottle of wine, it's going to taste exactly the same every time you get it, year after year. We know that as an agricultural product that is dependent on the weather, the climate, the temperature, it shouldn't be able to be that consistent, right? So what are the manipulations that are being made to the wine to provide a consistent product? Or where are the grapes being sourced from to provide a consistent product when it's an agricultural product that is really dependent on the vintage, on the temperature that year? Wine grapes are really finicky, and it's very hard to get a delicious grape, right? Or should I say a grape that's perfect for a wine, which would be very balanced and have enough acidity but have enough sugar at the same time. So when you're making a wine, it's like hard to achieve, and it's great if you can achieve that, but to achieve the exact same taste year after year, there might be something happening, and that would include potentially, and I don't want to say like blanket statement, but that could be additives, right? Like they're putting things in the wine that are balancing it out. And there are many additives which are permitted in wine that are not required on the label. And if you look at a label, wine label, it says absolutely nothing about the nutritional value, the ingredients, or what's actually in the bottle. And that's by design, okay? So because wine labels are not regulated by the FDA, so wine is not regulated by the FDA, it's regulated by basically the body that regulates tobacco. And that's how it just happened in the government. So they don't fall under the requirements of the FDA. And therefore, you don't have to have anything on the label, which now we have all this long list of things that you can put into wine. And they're not all bad, so I don't want to stir something where there's nothing to be stirred, but there's some that maybe you may question, right? Colorants, do you want colorants? If it's sugar, maybe that's not a terrible thing, right? But some people may be concerned about sugar, and is there added sugar? What type of preservatives, like what type of synthetic products are being put in to give the wine a certain whatever maybe. And so one of my personal missions in my lifetime is to, in some capacity, it may be small, it may not be, but get us to a place where there are ingredients on the label, because at least the consumer can make the decision, right? I think the argument that a lot of wineries, winemakers, let's just call it what it is, large, huge corporations would make is that, well, we don't need to put it on because we don't know, like, maybe the wine's going to be a certain way, and at the very last minute before it's bottled, we have to throw something in, and we can never, kind of get through all the regulation and all, the hoopla with the requirements. It's bullshit. Like, we have a right as a consumer to know what's in the products that we're consuming. right? We've already decided this with food. So why are we not passing this on to wine? And by the way, if you drink alcohol-free wine, that's an FDA product. So you have your ingredients listed and you have your nutritional info on there, which is great. That's the way it should be. Anyway, that was my soapbox for the night. I'll get into this more in the future if you're interested. I know it's like a little bit of a bland subject, but it's kind of personally important to me. So I just kind of wanted to touch on that. Oh, thank you. Okay, so Maria, if you can travel anywhere where you have not been yet to taste the wines of the region, where are you traveling? Okay, I think that's kind of easy. I was just having this conversation recently. I think that would be Burgundy. So that's a region in France, Bourgogne they call it, but Burgundy is sort of running north to south on the east side of France. And it's Pinot Noir and Chardonnay country there. And it's a super, like really pretty much, the most or one of the most important wine regions in the world, easily, super historic. And I haven't been there. So I've been to France and other places. I've been to the Loire Valley, I've been to Paris, I've been to Bordeaux, but I've not been to Burgundy. And I'm like kind of ashamed. There's a part of me where like when people ask me, I'm like, I haven't been to Burgundy, so I definitely want to go there. And I also, and I'll just throw a few in, Champagne. So Champagne is also a region in France, kind of north of Paris. Have not been there, and like Champagne is also one of my favorites. And then coming out of France, we'll give France a rest for a sec. So Italy, of course, I'm Italian. A lot of my people are Italian as well. Oh, I thought you were, okay, sorry, I thought you were Maria, but no, I thought you, okay, all right, I know who you are now. So I've been to Tuscany, right? So Tuscany is where you get Chianti and Brunello, as well as other wines. I haven't been to Piedmont, Italy, which is really probably the other most important wine region where you get Barolo and Barbaresco. So I'd love to go to Piedmont. Sicily, I'm part Sicilian and my entire in-laws are Sicilian and I haven't been there, which is not great, so I have to go there. That's definitely on the bucket list. And Sicily's really cool because they have, they've been making wine forever, but they're not as much on the map in terms of like the recognition and just the general public. So they have Mount Etna, which is really important for like really cool wines. Nerello Muscalese is one of the primary grapes there. Also Nero d'Avola for reds. And then I tasted a really cool couple wines yesterday for whites. Insolia, which is a very simple white wine. Grillo, which means cricket, is a fun, if you see Grillo, Grillo, it's just like an easy drinking fruity wine, but it has like more substance to it, so keep an eye out for those as well. Yeah, there's so many wine places I want to go to. South Africa, Austria, Australia. Like you would think being married to a pilot, I would be in all these places, and I try, but it's very hard to get to all these places. All right, so I'm just going to circle back because I know some people joined a little bit late. So on the wine that I have in my glass, so I have a Bordeaux Superior. So this is, as I mentioned, coming from a good friend. So Alex and Julie Milligan bring this in. They're actually right in Ridgefield. They're importers. So this is Chateau L'Orangerie. And it's a blend of Merlot and Cabernet Sauvignon, as pretty much all red Bordeaux is a blend in some capacity. And it's kind of like it's well priced, it's delicious, it's, like I was saying before, nice dark fruit. Now I'm getting even like some coffee-ish notes at this point. It wasn't like that initially, but as the wine opens up, some of the fruit tends to dissipate and then you get more like secondary characteristics. Yeah, it's like kind of deep and dark and like on the chocolatey side, I'm really enjoying. Oh man, my favorite champagne. All right, so back in Cambridge, I have a lot of good, probably my best wine memories are when I worked in Cambridge, Mass, where there was a 1997 Salon champagne. So it was a vintage champagne that like really, really stood out to me. That was incredible. And then like some produce, I don't know, there's some nice grower champagnes. So not really the big champagne houses that we've all heard of. There's some smaller ones that are just kind of doing their own thing. Aigli Aurier, which I'm probably not pronouncing correctly, but that was one that I used to really enjoy. They just had some like a lot of personality champagnes, and flowers. Flowers, yeah. This one, I don't know. It's the Bordeaux. Like someone is asking if it has any floral notes to it. Haha. Not really. It's not that kind of a wine. More like irony to me. Yeah, more iron, like chocolatey and coffee kind of notes and dark fruit. It's not like a floral wine to me. All right, do we have any questions? So I was sort of touching on, and then I went on a tangent before about like when people ask what's a good wine, right? When you're going to a store. And then I went on a whole tirade about the mass market wines and how they're made and ingredient labels. So I'm going to just pause on that for a second. Here's what I highly recommend. When you go into a wine shop, try to find like a more reputable shop in your area. Ideally something that like when you go in, it doesn't have all like the mass market crap. Hopefully some wines that you haven't heard of. And also you're going to look at the staff, and if the staff is kind of aloof and like they don't really know anything, it's just not going to be the best store because they're not educated themselves. I don't mean to, I don't want to like, there's different wine shops. You have the wine store, I'm going to call it, it's like a liquor store versus a wine shop. So a liquor store, you know, they have the liquors and they have kind of like the crappier wines. A wine shop has a curated selection of wines that are varied and cover a lot of different places and a lot of different grape varieties. And the staff will be able to walk you through their selection because they've probably tasted most of it. So if you could find a place like that, then you're golden, because most of the time they're not going to try to sell you a white wine from 2013 that should have been pulled off the shelves years ago, or they bought it at closeout for like $4 a bottle and they're selling it for $24. This happens, believe me, like I see it all the time in the bad stores, right? Like it'll be like freaking a white wine that's like practically brown or like really yellow. It shouldn't be like a dark browny yellow. And you're just like, I'm like, oh my God, like they're selling this. And I feel bad for the poor sucker who doesn't know anything, because really, you know, how does anybody know unless you're really in the industry? I feel like wine is one of those things where it's really, really hard to know unless you're in the industry, and just because of the wealth of information that is involved. How deep the world of wine is and varied, and is the whole world, right? Like many countries are able to produce wine. So the depth of knowledge required is really pretty deep. So anyway, it's easy for these shops to kind of take advantage of people. So anyway, start with somebody trusted and then develop a relationship and sort of, you know, start tasting, like buy wines under their recommendation. And then if you like something, say, oh, I really like that. Can you point me to something that's kind of similar? Excuse me. And also starting to develop your own tastes and understandings of what it is that you like, right? So do you like something light, like for red wine, right? Red wine. Do you like something light, medium, full body? Do you like tannin, like that shrivelly feeling, the puckery that you get? Do you enjoy that, like a Cabernet Sauvignon would have that? Or do you like something that's kind of silky and smooth, like a Pinot Noir, right? Or Merlot. Merlot is kind of in the middle, like what I'm drinking tonight. Beautiful. It's like medium bodied. It's nice and lush. It has nice ripe fruit. Take a sip. It floats. It like glosses right over your palate. It has some weight. It's definitely medium plus. A little bit of tannin, but not too much, right? So this one is sort of in the middle. But being able to understand what you like. Don't worry about the nuances of, like floral, you know, coffee, chocolate. Don't worry about that. That's not important. I think start with the main things, which are the body of the wine, like light or heavy. If it's red, the tannin. For white, you could talk about, I don't know, like, I guess certainly with white, light, medium, or full bodied. Dry and sweet, you know, I like really dry, but sometimes people say they like dry, but they don't, right? They like a little bit more fruitiness. So think about that. Do you like bone dry where it's like nothing? Or do you like something with a little bit more grapefruity, orangey kind of flavors, or melons or apples? Like tropical fruit tends to have a little more sugar without being actually a sweet wine. So there's definitely variation within the term dry, of bone dry, to a little tiny bit more sweetness. Not very perceivable. But I think the key is being able to understand what you like and then sort of translating that to the person that's behind the counter at this excellent wine shop that you've now found, and they're going to point you in a great direction. So sorry I can't help answer that question of like, what's a good wine? Because it varies for everybody. And even if I said one that I thought was great, of course there's many wines that I think are great, the chances of you finding it in your store are very slim, unless you're finding it this one, which I love. Anyway. All right, so I don't know, does anybody else have any questions? Or else we're going to kind of wrap it up tonight. Also, do we like the timing of the kind of 8:30 on a Thursday, Thirsty Thursday? What's your feedback there? I was able to successfully get the kids in. Yes. Okay. So the name of the wine, I'll go through it slowly. So Chateau L'Orangerie. So this is what we call the producer. It's you could say the vineyard, although when you say vineyard, it's dicey because you can have a producer making wines in a lot of smaller vineyard locations. So that's why I try not to use the word vineyard. Winery would be probably a good term as well, although they're not always wineries themselves. But anyway, that's why we say the word producer. So producer Chateau L'Orangerie, this is located in Bordeaux. So here we have Bordeaux, right? So Bordeaux is a place kind of southwestern France. It's a city, but then surrounding it is a wine region. Superior, it refers to the level of quality. So if you could just have a Bordeaux AOC, right? Kind of their more basic level in Bordeaux. Superior, oh, well, it means superior. It does really, really mean that it has a little bit higher alcohol. But what that translates to is more ripeness of the actual grapes when they were harvested, right? That's why the wine has more alcohol. When you have more ripeness, you have more, let's just call it fullness of flavor or breadth of flavor. And what they're probably doing here is sourcing, because it's a Bordeaux Superior, they're probably taking grapes from more than one specific area and blending them together. And that's why also they're probably having to put this, because it's not coming from one teeny tiny area, right? It's probably from a few different places, so that's why they have to label this. But the end product is fantastic, and this is a great value. I don't know the price offhand because it would sort of vary slightly by market. I don't even know. I don't want to know. If anybody's in there that knows, let me know. And also, if you actually really care, I can very easily find out for you what this would retail for. The distributor in the tri-state area that brings this in is OPICI. OPICI. It's so good. All of the Milligan wines are fantastic. I just tasted a lot of the lineup yesterday, actually, so it's kind of fresh in my mind. Here's the cool thing about Bordeaux. So a lot of people associate Bordeaux with red wine. They also make rosé, and they make white, and they make sweet. But what's really cool and definitely overlooked are the white wines from Bordeaux. And usually the whites are a blend of Sauvignon Blanc and another grape called Semillon. And Semillon, I'm going to call it a fat white grape, right? So it makes lower acid whites, but that have a lot of body and a lot of roundness and richness. kind of had a vanilla component usually. And then also, in addition, Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon are usually there's more Sauvignon Blanc for the most part, because that will tend to balance out the Semillon. Also, a grape called Muscadel usually there's a smaller percentage of that and adds sort of a floral, interesting, aromatic note to the wine. But so Bordeaux Blanc is usually a blend of those 2 or 3. And it's like so overlooked because everybody looks for the word Sauvignon. So say you want a Sauvignon Blanc, right? And you're looking for the word Sauvignon Blanc. Well, if you see a Bordeaux Blanc on the shelf, it's not going to say Sauvignon Blanc most of the time. So you're just walking past it. You don't know. How would you know, right? How would the average consumer even know that that's what that was? So I'm going to highly recommend next time you're at a good wine shop, go into the French section, look at the Bordeaux selection, look at the Bordeaux Blanc. So you'll just see a bottle of white wine that says Bordeaux or Bordeaux Blanc. You may turn it over. It may tell you the breakdown, maybe Sauvignon Blanc or Semillon or something like that. And give it a try. And I will say they do drink a little bit differently than your typical New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. And they definitely drink differently from something like a Sancerre. If you know Sancerre and you like it, it's a little bit different. It's a little bit more muted. Sancerre usually has higher acidity and like higher tones. The Bordeaux Blanc, because of the Semillon, typically will be a little bit more muted and a little bit more fuller. And I would say restrained, I think would be the right word. But really great with food. Like if you need a nice white wine, either way, it could be on its own or it could be with like a light meal for sure. So often overlooked. They're such a good value. They're not expensive. They're Bordeaux, but they're not expensive. And I definitely recommend giving it a shot. Delightful. All right, my friends. So I think I'm going to get going. If there's any last minute questions, please shoot them. Otherwise, I will see you as it's looking same time, same place. Thirsty Thursdays over 30. So we are probably getting pretty tired at about 9 o'clock, getting ready for bed, as opposed to when we were 24, 23, and we were basically just getting ready to go out. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining, and I will see you next week. Cheers.